Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're talking about the Boston Celtics' upcoming offseason, and oh boy, is this an interesting team. They are built for the future, and they are also built to win now. They have two superstar young one current star, eventual superstar, and one current all-star, eventual star level player. The superstar potential being in Jason Tatum and the star potential being in Jaylen Brown. They play the most important position in the NBA as a wing, and they are just building around these two for the future. And they also have some really good win now players and guys like Kemba Walker, Gordan Heyward, and Marcus Smart, and also some guys that they could potentially develop into solid rotation players in Grant Williams and Robert Williams, as well as the guy they spent their first round pick on last year, Romeo Langford, although recently there's been a lot of talk about how they wanted Tyler Hero with that pick, but clearly he was off the board as the Heat selected him one spot before they selected Romeo, but people still have a lot of faith in Romeo and think that eventually he will be a rotation level player. So let's get right into it with this team and what some potential changes they could make this offseason. As you'll notice, a lot of what I'm going to talk about has to do with the center position because we saw them get absolutely and utterly destroyed by Bam Adebayo in their Eastern Conference Finals series against the Miami Heat. So I'd like to see them make a significant upgrade there in order to have a fighting chance against guys like Bam. Their coach is Brad Stevens. Brad is wonderful. I think in this playoffs it was revealed that he's not quite on the level that a guy like Erik Spoelstra is. And I actually think that in a lot of ways he was outcoached by Nick Nurse in the Eastern Conference semifinals. He just ended up having the more talented roster, so he was able to carry his team through that round. But he might not be on the level of guys like Spoelstra and Nurse, but that's absolutely fine. Those two guys are top three coaches in the entire NBA. So if you've got a guy who's top 5 to 7 coach in the NBA, you're going to be happy with it, and that's what Brad Stevens is. I know that a lot of people thought that he was the next Popovich for a long time, and I still think that there's potential that he reaches that spot. You have to keep in mind, he's still one of the youngest head coaches in the entire NBA, but as of right now, I would rank him a tier below guys like Spoelstra and Nurse. In the draft, this team has 3 first-round picks in the 14th pick, the 26th pick, and the 30th pick. And there's a couple different things I could see them doing with these picks. First of all, they could trade up potentially and add another really good young player to their core. Something like all 3 of those picks for the Pistons' number 7 overall pick could be an interesting deal. If they were to do that, I think Killian Hayes would be a fantastic addition to this core. Killian is probably my favorite player in this upcoming draft. I think that he's going to be really, really good, and I think that the value you're getting for him around 5 to 8, which is likely where he's going to fall in the draft. I guess 4 to 8, because I could see the Bulls taking him as well. That's really good value for a guy that I think could end up being the best player in the entire draft. So if the Celtics are able to add him to this core of Tatum and Brown, watch out, because if he's got a chance to learn under Kemba Walker for a season before stepping in to a starting role, and obviously he would probably be playing the 2 because Kemba's under contract for a while. Once he begins starting, which obviously wouldn't be next season. This team does have a need at the backup point guard spot, so he would also be fulfilling that need, but watch out if they add him to this core. Otherwise, if they stay at 14, they could take another guy that could end up providing a backup point guard spot for them. Another similar combo guard type to Killian, someone that I really like in Tyrese Maxey. Maxey really feels like the type of guy the Celtics would want to draft as a guy that was pretty successful in college, went to a big-name school, similar to Romeo Langford, who went to Indiana, Grant Williams, who went to Tennessee. People like that have been guys that they've been very interested in the past, and I think that Maxey is a really undervalued player in this draft, and he is going to be pretty good in the NBA. I feel like he's one of the guys that I would definitely consider to be an eventual starter level or at least rotation level players in this draft. And if you're getting that guy at 14 in what's considered a weak draft, although I really don't think it's as weak as a lot of people think, that's amazing value. I also like Trey Jones here for them just to play that backup point guard role. I think that Trey is one of the most overlooked players of the entire draft. I think that he's going to come in right away and have the ability to be a really, really good backup point guard. A quality backup point guard. Maybe not really, really good, because a really, really good backup point guard would be someone in the consideration for his sixth man of the year. And Trey Jones is not going to be that at the beginning of his career. But eventually I could see him becoming a Ricky Rubio type of guy at the helm of your offense, as a good ball handler, a good defender, a good passer, someone that can knock down some open shots. I really think that Trey Jones is going to be a quality NBA player. Maybe 14 is a little high for him. I actually personally like him in this range, and I think that I would rather take him than someone like Alexei Pokusevski or Patrick Williams, guys that are going to be projects and going to be something you have to work at, because I just don't see with Pokusevski, although Williams could be a solid option for the Celtics here. I think Trey Jones fills the need, and he also is going to be a pretty good NBA player one day down the line. Precious Achiuwa is another guy they could go with to kind of fill in that void at center. However, they do have some good young centers in Daniel Tice, although he's not necessarily old, or particularly old. He's young enough that he'll be able to be a good player for them down the line, and he's on a very good contract right now. I believe he's under contract until the 2022 season, getting paid a meager $5 million per season, which is great value for a guy that's playing as well as Tice is. But Achiuwa could be another option for them at the center position. However, I don't love that pick. I think that's a little early for a guy that's not going to be doing a whole lot for you on the offensive end of the floor, especially a guy that has not shown the best offensive instincts as a passer, and even a guy that doesn't have great shot selection in Achiuwa. However, his defense is top-notch, probably a top 5 defender in this class. Definitely a top 3 center prospect in this class behind Wiseman and Okongwu. So that's definitely someone the Celtics could consider here. However, I would say my favorite options for them are Maxey and Jones. With the 26th and 30th pick, I think it's very unlikely that they make all 3 of these first-round selections, and these 2 are probably the most likely to be traded. If not, Desmond Bane is my favorite guy in this area of the draft. I just think that he's going to develop into a really, really good player due to his interesting skill set as a very muscular, well-built player, who I think that is going to allow him to be able to switch on to bigger guys and defend well in the post, while also being a knockdown three-point shooter, and his bulk is also going to allow him to be a decent finisher. So I think that this guy is going to be a really solid quality starter in the NBA, and I think that if you're getting him in this part of the draft, that's outstanding value if you're getting a starter here. He might be the sleeper of the draft. I could see him being one of the 10 best players in this draft class. So if they're able to nab him here, that's amazing value. Otherwise, another center that I like, Isaiah Stewart. I'm not nearly as high on him as many are. I just think that he's a guy that's going to come in and play a position that you can really fill with anybody you want as a backup level center. But 26 is probably a good spot if you can nab him here. He'd be a pretty solid draft pick for them. And if Alexei Pokusevski is still here at 26, I don't think there's any argument against taking him. Taking him or Jaden McDaniels, 2 guys that are projects but have very high ceilings compared to the rest of the guys that are going to be on the board at this part of the draft. I think that between 24, 22, and 30 is the right spot for these type of guys. And I would not be at all disappointed in the Celtics if they took a gamble on one of those guys at this part of the draft. However, I think going with a guy that's a complete shot in the dark, a lottery ticket like that with the 14th pick, would be way too early. In terms of trades this team could make this offseason, the package I really want to talk about is that Gordan Heyward plus whatever young players or draft picks they need. Miles Turner is obviously the guy that's thrown around in rumors a lot. Everybody has talked about the Gordan Heyward for Miles Turner trade package, or at least the framework for that trade. There would be some finagling over what other players and picks are thrown in there, but that would make a lot of sense for the Celtics. However, for the Pacers, it doesn't seem great, especially with the uptick in the play of TJ Warren. in the bubble. We saw him break out as a scorer, so bringing in another guy to play a similar position to him just doesn't seem like it'd be worth giving up a really high quality young center who is on a pretty solid deal moving forward. I don't think I would do that for Gordan Heyward. So I think a more realistic guy that they could trade for would be Steven Adams from a team in the Thunder that's on a fire sale. In order to get Adams for Heyward in a straight up swap, you would probably have to attach a young player or a trade or a draft pick of some value. I think that the Thunder would probably prefer to get a young player considering all the draft picks they have stockpiled moving forward. Although the 14th pick in Heyward for Steven Adams, I don't think you would say no to that, but I also don't think that the Celtics would be willing to throw in the 14th pick there. It would probably be more like the 26th or 30th pick. But that would get them a pretty equal level of player. Gordan Heyward and Steven Adams are pretty similar in terms of their level of play, in my opinion. Obviously, we saw Adams struggle a little bit in the playoffs, but I think a lot of that was mostly due to the fact that he didn't have a very good matchup at all against the Houston Rockets. I think that he'll be able to bounce back next season and prove that he's a above average starting center in this league, and he could provide a lot of value for them matching up against guys like Domantas Sabonis and Bam Adebayo in the Eastern Conference playoffs next season. So that'd be a trade that I'd be interested in making if I'm the Celtics. Obviously, you're probably overpaying for him, but it's an upgrade at a position of need and a downgrade at a position of strength. So, and this team also does have a large sum of young players. So if it was something like Heyward and Carson Edwards instead of Heyward and a draft pick, I also think the Celtics would probably do that too. Pick up a quality starting center because Daniel Theis is really good, but I don't think that anyone is going to make a debate that Adams would be an upgrade from Theis. And Adams could also be he's only 26 or 27 years old, so he could be another veteran to add to this young core to help them win now, alongside Kemba Walker if they could get him on a nice extension moving forward. Those are really the only trades I thought of for Gordan Heyward. I'm sure that there are plenty of others, so leave your Gordan Heyward trade ideas in the comment section down below. I love reading your comments, and I would very much appreciate it if you left me your ideas. In free agency, I don't think that this team is going to have very much cap space considering the amount of money they are paying Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker, and Gordan Heyward. So they're likely going to be targeting a player who's going to be a bottom of the rotation level guy. And I would really like to see this team bring back Aaron Baines. I'm sure that all Celtics fans would also love that because he seems to be one of the most beloved players in the NBA, and last year with the Celtics, that was very true. They loved Aaron Baines, and they'd be very, very happy to see him come back to Boston. He could provide some nice backup center minutes. However, I think that they will likely try to upgrade that position either through free agency or trade. And I don't think that Aaron Baines would be an improvement over Daniel Theis, so maybe that's not the direction they go. Another center they could target would be Marc Gasol. Try to steal him, or Serge Ibaka from the rival Raptors. And that could be a definite upgrade, in Ibaka's case at least, over Theis. Gasol, as we saw in the playoffs, is maybe on a downward turn in his career, but Serge would be a huge upgrade for them at the center position as a guy who can get you a bucket and can also play solid defense. Not as good as Daniel Theis, but he's a better rim protector. Obviously not as switchable as the 6'8" Theis, but probably a better rim protector. So those are some centers they could target in free agency. Otherwise, they need to upgrade on that backup point guard spot. They could retain Brad Wanamaker if they think that he is the answer. However, he had some good moments in the playoffs run, but overall he didn't seem to have too big of an impact on the court. So I'd like to see them bring in someone like DJ Augustine or Jeff Teague, someone that's got a lot of experience in the NBA and could really lock down that second unit for them. Overall, I think that this team has a lot of potential moving forward. Next year they're going to be a title contender once again with the core of Tatum, Brown, Walker. That's one of the best big threes in the entire NBA. And when you have guys alongside them as a supporting cast, like Gordan Heyward, Daniel Theis, Marcus Smart, this team's got a chance to go far. I would like to see them try to make an upgrade at the center position, but even if they don't, they can continue to add to their core with the multitude of first-round picks that they have. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. That's it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.